There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. That's right. That is right. Man, what'd you guys think of that intro? I hope you liked it. It only took me like 75 times attempts at trying to record that thing and having it come out right. Finally, I got it to happen. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is episode 1. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm super excited for the guest I got for you today. So we're going to get into that. Before I talk about that, I wanted to introduce the Western Huntsman Podcast and the concept behind this podcast, so you guys kind of get a feel and understanding of what's to come in the future and what to plan for, what to look forward to. This is a hunting and fishing podcast, and people might say, well, okay, here's another hunting podcast and another one, because there's a bunch out there, and there's a lot of really good ones. And for me personally, I'm a huge fan of hunting podcasts and fishing podcasts. I listen to most of them. So, in this case, what's going to separate this one is there's going to be an underlying factor that we're going to focus on that I think a lot of people, a lot of hunters and outdoorsmen, may not pay enough attention to. And I think it's important that here in 2020, brand new, fresh year, that we start paying attention to it. And what I'm referring to is the growing anti-hunting movement and the growing movement to take our public lands away. But let me just say my focus is mainly on the anti-hunting movement. And that's not what we're going to talk about in every show, but we do need to have that underlying context of this show and this episode. And I've done a lot of research and homework on this topic, and what the idea is if I've got an audience that's fired up about hunting and fishing and conservation, they're going to be more inclined to fight for this thing, this heritage, this way of life that we all love and share. That's the basic concept. That's it right there. And how we're going to do that is through these great guests, these great voices in hunting and fishing and conservation. Some of these guests that I have are not going to be people that everybody knows and they've been on all these podcasts in the past or what we call the famous YouTube hunters or anything like that. I do have a pile of those, and I'm super excited about them. But I also want to talk to people that are not so well known. They're great hunters, they're great fishermen, they're great outdoorsmen. They deserve a little bit of recognition and a voice. And I want to offer a platform for some of these guys that need a voice, because they have a lot to say and they have a lot of good points to make, and they want to protect our hunting and fishing rights as much as anybody. And so it's going to be a nice combination and a mix. We're going to share these stories in a way that gets us all connected. And that's another concept of this podcast, is connecting hunters with other hunters. There is, within the anti-hunting movement, a strong connection between each of these organizations. And from what I could tell, there's over 50 of them in the United States alone. So there's one strong anti-hunting organization per state. And I'm just talking about the big ones. I'm not talking about the little groups, the small groups that don't generate a lot of revenue. I'm talking about the big ones that have a lot of money behind them. They have a lot of advertising, and what they do is they're able to connect the dots where they lack, another organization picks up and they connect those dots together and fight together. We kind of lack that within the hunting community, and I want to smooth those disparities out between different hunting organizations and different hunting styles. Things like, bow hunter versus rifle hunter, trad bow versus compound bow, fly fishermen versus bait fishermen, things like that tend to bring a lot of tension in like the social media world. You see it a lot. Everybody's arguing over what type of rifle they're using and different things like that. So that is the gist of that. So let's move into kind of explaining the Western Huntsman platform. It's a platform I started about a year ago or so. My name is Jim Huntsman, and I am a lifelong Western hunter and fisherman. So you can kind of see where I connected those two phrases. The Western Huntsman is pretty creative, right? And I started that as a blog website, and have been writing articles, and I've written articles for magazines and things like that. I was raised in the West. I was raised in Utah, and I now live in Idaho. I've been in Idaho for somewhere between 15 and 20 years. And we live up in the Panhandle. I'm married to a wonderful woman. I have 4 daughters. You'll understand when you see pictures of me with all my gray hair and stuff. That's why, because I'm still just a young man in my prime, right? So the Western Huntsman, I started that just because, mainly I am an outdoorsman. I'm a hunter. I'm a fisherman. I'm not the best hunter you've ever met, but I'm damn sure not the worst hunter you've ever met. I'm not the best fisherman you've ever met, and I'm damn sure not the worst fisherman you've ever met. What I am is passionate about and being an outdoorsman, and I get really fired up when I see this group of individuals that want to take these things away from us, because I'm going to explain a little bit more of this, but hunting is who I am. And I'm going to explain a little bit more context behind that here in just a second. So that's kind of the Western Huntsman. I've always looked at, there's shows and magazines and things that are called the Western Hunter. And I've always thought, man, my last name, it looks like my last name. When you see just kind of a snippet somewhere and it kind of looks like the name the way your name is spelled or whatever, that's kind of what caught my eye. And the Western Huntsman makes sense because, with the exception of some time I spent in the Marine Corps, where I lived for just under 5 years in North Carolina, I live in the West. I hunt the West. I've hunted and fished all over the West, and I am extremely passionate about it. And it's just a different animal. And so this is going to be a wild ride. So again, welcome, guys. The Western Huntsman Podcast, the voice of advocacy and entertainment for the American outdoorsman. Let me just read you my mission statement, and we're going to get into our guest interview here. The Western Huntsman Podcast mission statement: to inspire a genuine passion for hunting, fishing, and conservation in an effort to develop a strong coalition of American outdoorsmen willing to fight and protect our hunting rights, public lands access, and our wildlife. That's it. That explains everything. That explains the general concept and underlining reason why I decided to start this podcast. So I'm glad you guys are here. I hope you really like the show. We're going to kick this thing off. So in this first episode, I had the privilege to sit down with a guy named Dirk Durham, who, if you guys are into hunting, you've been into hunting for a long time, you're paying attention on social media, you know who Dirk Durham is, right? I mean, everybody knows Dirk Durham, especially if you're an elk hunter. In my opinion, Dirk is probably one of the top 3, maybe 4 best elk hunters that walk God's green earth. And he's an interesting guy. And I say that in a sense that, like, he's not just a great elk hunter. He's extremely entertaining to watch. He's got a great sense of humor. We laughed throughout this whole thing, and that aside, he's also a thinker. And I like to meet people that make me think and analyze certain things about myself or my life or decisions I've made. And Dirk is one of those guys that makes me think. And he made me think when I went down to where he lives, just outside of Orofino, Idaho. He's got a great spot way back in the sticks. And we sat down and we're doing this interview. And one of the things that really struck me with the conversation that I had with Dirk is, well, 2 things. There's 2 things. A, when you watch when he is on video, he's got his own YouTube channel. He's been a couple of years with Born and Raised Outdoors with their wildly popular YouTube series, and he's spent some time with the Elk 101 crew. and doing The Linguist. And so he's been on a lot of these different YouTube productions, and he is in person that same super likable guy that he is on those shows. And so I found that super interesting because that's not always the case, right? And so it was cool to kind of, he toured me around his shop, and I got to see, he's got like this crazy collection of elk antlers. I was super jealous, and just a great all-American guy. But the thinking part, the other takeaway that I got out of this was, we're talking, and I asked him, and you'll hear it in the interview. I asked him, would you say that you're obsessed with hunting? And I've always kind of used that word in not the wrong context, but loosely. And I've been guilty of that. And he explained that, it's not really an obsession for him, because obsession is not the appropriate way to explain who he is in regards to hunting, right? So it's more of who he is. Hunting is an identifier for him. It's how he identifies with himself, and it's just part of who he is. And you're going to hear him explain it a lot better than I can. For me, I took away from that understanding that, I need to stop calling it a damn obsession. It's not, because obsessions, if you think about it, are kind of temporary in nature. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm just starting this podcast, right? I have another one that I do for work, and this one's going to be a lot more fun. But I'm obsessed with starting this podcast. I'm obsessed with getting it off the ground and rolling and getting all the stuff that I need to learn, which there's a lot. That's an obsession. My wife, it's just about Christmas as I'm recording this. We're a couple days out from Christmas. She's obsessed with Christmas right now. She's really cute about it. She loves the decor, baking cookies, getting presents ready, making it super magical for the kids. That's what she does, and she obsesses over it. That's an obsession. Hunting is a way of life. It's not like a trend or a temporary thing. It's not an image. It's a way of life. And it's kind of like what Dirk says. Oh, bear with me. I got my golden retrievers here. He's shaking over there. Background noise. He's my co-host. Anyway, it's a way of life. It's the way that we identify as ourselves, and it's the way we feed the fire within our soul. And that really is what hunting is. And I say that in the intro, that the outdoors is how we fuel that fire. And that's just who I am. So we're going to get into this. This is going to be a great episode with Dirk. He talks about his YouTube channel. And if you don't know this, he's a sales and marketing manager for Phelp's Game Calls as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link his YouTube channel in the show notes, and I'm going to link Phelp's Game Calls in the show notes. So you guys, if you haven't checked out the latest series from Dirk, you need to. He's also got a bunch of videos that talk about how to learn how to bugle, and Dirk goes by the Bugler on Instagram, and there's a Facebook page called the Bugler, and the YouTube channel is the Bugler. So super easy to find. He's got to be probably the best caller on the planet, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear this. He's such a good dude. Let's get this going. All right, guys. Well, I'm here with Dirk Durham, the Bugler.
Oh, hey.
And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it. I've never done this where I have to hold the microphone in front of me like this. This is a low-budget podcast, man.
You look like a rock star there, just singing into it.
Yeah, you never know. I might break out and start singing. So we decided to sit down together and do a podcast with Dirk here, just kind of piggybacking off this big series you got on YouTube.
Yeah. Coming
off. How's it going?
Man, it's been awesome. It's been really good so far.
What you've got 10 total episodes on that?
So there'll be 9 days of hunting, and then it'll follow up, and there'll be kind of like an interview with with Dirk Durham.
Ooh,
So
nice.
probably get to hear some of the same stuff we're going to talk about today.
Awesome.
We recorded at elk camp last September. Cameraman and I sat down and he asked me a bunch of questions, and some of them they kind of go along these same lines. So
Yeah.
but you got some pretty good ones there too.
Good.
Some different ones. So
Yeah, I kind of wanted to get a feel for, you and your background, who Dirk Durham is outside of elk hunting a little bit. And then obviously we can't do this without getting into some elk hunting, right? I mean, that's just part of it.
yeah.
We started out, I've got these, basically just a list of questions here, and it starts out with, how do you pronounce the Waipe? Waipe,
It's
Idaho?
Weipe.
Weipe.
Like growing up in Weipe, it's a small town. Of course, all the other towns around, they're a little bigger.
Uh-huh.
They want to make fun of the little town, especially with a weird name. So the funny jokes and, oh, you're from Weipe? Hey, you know what the dog said right before it got run over? No, what did it say? Weipe. I'm like, yeah, I've heard that like 10 times.
Weipe, Idaho.
Yeah.
Weipe, Idaho. Okay, I'm going to get that down. I'm going to remember this time.
Yeah, Weipe Gorillas. That was our mascot.
That was a mascot.
Yeah.
And when you were born and raised there?
Yeah, I was born in Grangeville, Idaho, which is, about an hour away from Weipe.
Mm-hmm.
But was raised there. Moved out a couple times, moved back, growing up through the years.
And we're sitting in Dirk's front room here in Orofino. Actually, you don't live in Orofino, man. You live like in the mountains.
Yeah, I live out in the sticks.
Yeah. So great spot to be. Tell us a little bit. Just give us like a bird's eye view of your childhood.
When I was a kid, I felt like I had a pretty normal childhood. Looking around at the other kids I went to school with, living, growing up in a small town. Everybody's dads kind of did the same kind of work. Whether they worked in the woods, falling timber or running machines to get the timber to the mill, or working at the mill. It's a very timber-based industry and community.
Logging town.
Yeah, so there was no rich guys in Weipe or even the surrounding area, So we grew up in a modest setting. We didn't have a bunch of extra money to throw around, and my dad, he was very frugal from growing up in the Great Depression, and my mom, same story. She grew up in hard times as a kid, and so they kind of held on to every dollar they could. So we didn't have fancy or lavish things by no means, but we always had what we needed. We never went without, really.
Vacations, stuff like that.
We went on vacation a few times. My dad would kind of save up his vacation time, and we would take a month. And his brother had moved to Florida, and back in several years previous, and we would drive. We had this big ugly green station wagon, right? And we would drive across America like the Griswolds.
Well, I was going to say like Clark Griswold situation.
Clark W. Griswold.
Awesome.
So we would drive all the way to Florida, and my dad didn't believe in motels. He's like, no, we'll just drive. And that man would drive for 3 days straight. He would take a nap at a rest stop every now and then we would drive. And then maybe along the way, somewhere we would stop one night and get a hotel and, take a shower and sleep on our bed and everything before we'd get there, seems like. But
no dead grandmas or aunts on the roof or anything like that?
Or dogs tied to the bumper. No, none of that.
Good.
But, it was funny driving across America. Hey, Mount Rushmore. Hey, there's the turn. Let's go to Mount Rushmore. And my dad, no, I've already seen it. Just a tourist trap. Well, we want to see it. Nope. We're keeping on driving. It was not up for discussion. We're not going to see Mount Rushmore. We're not going to go see all these touristy things. The one thing, I don't know if any of the listeners have driven across the Midwest, but I'm not sure where it's at, what city. But the one thing he did stop and let us go see was the Corn Palace.
The Corn Palace.
The Corn Palace, and I think that's in one of the Dakotas.
Real flat-like area.
Yeah, it's flatter than a pancake.
And you watch your dog run away for 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the Corn Palace is this huge building, giant, the size of a shopping mall. And on the exterior, they take corn cobs and screw them to the outside of this Corn Palace. in intricate designs. So you'll have a wagon train over here and like animals and Indians and horses and all these different things on the side of this building made out of corn cobs.
Oh, wow.
So then you go inside and they have a bunch of, historical nonsense. But that was the one of all the places to go. The one place he did stop.
It struck him for some reason, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
he hadn't seen it yet, I guess.
yeah, he hadn't seen it.
Can we see the Grand Canyon? Nope, I've seen it. It's not that grand, you say.
I'd like to spend some time talking about your dad a little bit.
Yeah.
He, from what I know, is a World War II veteran.
Yep.
And a Marine.
Yep.
Which is near and dear to my heart because I'm a Marine.
Yeah.
And so, can you give us a little background on his time in the Marine Corps? Where is he from originally, and then how he ended up in the Marine Corps?
Yeah. So he grew up in this little town of West Frankfort, Illinois, and grew up poor as dirt. The Great Depression. Mm-hmm. He told how his dad would work like a dog. He would cut hardwood and make railroad ties out of hardwood trees, and they were hand done. He would hand cut them with a crosscut saw, and then he'd take a broad axe, which I had one on the wall here somewhere. I was going to show you, but he would take a broad axe and actually cut out the shape of the railroad tie, and that's how he made his living, is making these hand hewn railroad ties, and he would work for like a dollar or two a day. Mm-hmm. Times were tough in the Great Depression. They nearly starved to death. He told one instance of where, they had, the only thing they had to eat was rutabagas for like 2 weeks.
Really?
And after 2 weeks, he says to his dad, he's like, I'm sick of these damn rutabagas. He's like, and his dad says, well, I kind of like them. And he knew his dad didn't like them, but that's what they had to eat.
That's what they had.
That's what they had.
Yeah, making the best of it.
Yeah. So they grew up poor. Times were tough, but his mom had passed away when he was 2 years old. She had tuberculosis. So he was kind of raised by his older sister and his older brothers, and his dad was always working. And wasn't too bad of a childhood, I guess. Is pretty hard, not having a mom, of course.
Sure.
But they lived like wild animals. Like, he'd get up in the morning and leave the house and be gone all day into the wee hours. They would go coon hunting and possum hunting, and they would go. They call it noodling these days for catfish.
Yeah,
They called it hogging back in them days. They did that way back then. And then finally, he started getting older, and then World War II come along. So he went and enlisted. He's like, well, I'm going to get drafted anyway. Just might as well sign up. So he joined the Marine Corps.
Why did he pick the Marine Corps? Do you know?
I don't know.
Just cool uniform?
Yeah, must have been. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
What year was that? Do you know?
1942, I think.
42. Okay. Yeah. So just about a year or so into our involvement there for sure.
Yeah.
And then where did he go from there?
So he went to basic training. I'm not sure where he did basic training, but
probably, what would it be, San Diego? Or
yeah, it was San Diego. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finished basic training, went to the Pacific Theater, went right to Hawaii. He said all those blown up ships were there when he got there, and they did, he called them maneuvers. So they did training on Hawaii, whatever island, I guess it must be the big island or whatever.
I think it's the main island.
The main island.
I'm drawing a blank.
I'm Hawaii illiterate. So.
Me too. I've even been there. I
just
don't remember.
Yeah.
Where Honolulu is? That one.
Yeah, that one. And so they spent some time.
Oahu.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
They spent time training there, and then they jumped on ships and shipped out. And they went to all the Mariana Islands in the Southwest Pacific and started invading each island, clearing the Japanese
during the island hopping campaign.
Yep. They went from island to island, and it was a grisly, bloody business. And they were on Iwo Jima, and he was there when all that went down. And
this is how for you guys that are listening, we're putting koozies on these microphones because we're getting a lot of pops. So I found it's one of my favorite uses of these things.
Yeah, it seems to work.
Works out pretty good, right? So he's in the South Pacific, World War II's like going hot and heavy. What were some of the places that you'd mentioned Iwo Jima?
Yeah, he was on Iwo Jima before he was there. He was on Saipan and Tinian. I'm not sure all the other ones, but it was like what you see on the History Channel. They had those amphibious trucks that pull up on the beach.
Yeah, like those U-boat type
things, and the front gate would drop down, and you ran out of it into the surf and made your way up on the beach under fire, with the enemy firing, and you try to go find cover and then light them up. So very, very, very tough situation.
Intense. Yeah, it's such a to imagine just in today's standards and the numbers that fell in World War II, the casualty rates we had in today's standards. I think it would be shocking for society to know that, especially because they can almost do it live. They can record it live. When I was in the Marines and overseas, we had embedded camera and reporter type people that would follow us around, and they had something similar, but they were actually in the military in World War II. They were actually military assigned photographers and stuff like that. Now they can record it in real time, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the devastation on those kind of islands and what your dad went through, how did it affect him?
I think it affected him really, really deeply. You talk to like a lot of his friends and relatives, and they said before he went to war, he was a very happy-go-lucky, joke, laugh, ha-ha all the time, didn't take life too seriously. But when he came back, he definitely was different.
Did he talk about it a lot or not much?
No, he'd never talk about it. But the only time he'd talk about the war is if I had a friend or if my brothers had friends that wanted to join military, then he'd say, you need to have them come over and talk to me. And he would tell the war stories of what he saw and how it went there. Because he didn't really have any ill will against the Japanese people when he come home. He left it all there. Sure. He was a little more mad at the government. Like, for sending him and all those other young men over there to fight.
Sure.
And he didn't want anybody he knew to have to go through that grisly,
be kind of a pawn show, in a way. Yeah. How did him and your mom meet?
So small town. He'd moved to Weippe right after World War II. He had a sister that lived in Los Angeles, and he stayed there with her for about a year. And he's just like, I got to get out of here. Too many people. So had a relative that moved up to this little town of Weippe, and he said, that sounds like a pretty good place to me. So him and his brother moved up there, and a few years later, my mom and her family moved to town from Colorado, and they used to have these dances downtown. There was an old log dance hall downtown Weippe, and it's cool. It looks like it probably is 100 years old.
It's still there?
Yeah, it's still there, and they have the big dance floor, big hardwood dance floor and stuff. And every weekend they would have people in there playing music, and all the women in the community and in the outlying areas would bring in pies they'd made.
Oh wow! And
put on this big pie social type thing, and people have some drinks and dance. And anyway, that's where they met there.
Gotcha. See, and that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to have you on, because you've got this all American and all Idahoan background.
Yeah.
That these are great stories to tell. Yeah. And so so you lost your mom this year.
I did.
How old was your mom?
She was 80 years old.
When did your dad die?
He died in 2009. He was 85 when he passed.
Okay, in 2009. Tell us a little bit about your mom.
My mom, she grew up in Colorado and New Mexico. Her dad was a sheep herder, her whole life down in New Mexico, Colorado. And they, had a similar, upbringing, very tough times. It was not a lucrative business to be a sheep herder. So they didn't know what a lot of money was.
And she would have been pretty young during the Great Depression, right?
Yeah, she was quite a bit younger than my dad. I think she was 14 years younger than him. So,
gotcha. Yeah.
So when they moved to Weippe and then was there for a while, then she finally got of age to be running around and stuff. And I think she was pretty young when they first met, and he'd been there for a little while. But so they moved up there, you know, because they were kind of, you know, spun out down there. Just they couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And her dad came up, moved to Weippe, and got a job in the timber business, you know, falling trees and working in mills. And she had 3 brothers, and they did the same. So,
yeah.
So, and the money was much better. So they had a way better lifestyle or quality of life once they moved up there.
What would be something that you want people to know about your mom?
My mom had a no give up, never quit like anybody I know. She only had one hand. So when she was 8 years old, she'd found a dynamite blasting cap out in the shed or something. And she thought, oh, this looks like a spent rifle cartridge. Must be some dirt or something in it. So she had a nail, and she was digging in it.
Uh-huh.
Because she's like, I'm going to dig it out, and like you can blow on a spent rifle cartridge. You can blow and make a whistle. She was going to dig that out so she could blow on it like a whistle.
Oh, yeah.
And she was digging in it, and it blew up.
No kidding.
And blew off most of her hand.
Her left hand?
Her left hand.
Jeez.
And she had a thumb and a pinky left, and most of her palm, but blew the fingers off. They amputated her hand at the wrist. They thought, well, we'll just make a nice clean cut here. That way we don't have to worry about, you know, this or that. She's like, gosh, I wish they would have left my pinky and my thumb.
Yeah.
I could have done a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Know? But you wouldn't know it. She could do anything and everything everybody else could ever do but with one hand.
Yeah.
And she, except for sharpening a pencil in a traditional pencil sharpener, I'd have to sharpen a pencil for her.
That would be pretty challenging for sure. Yeah.
So, but she was awesome, man. She was my biggest fan when I was a kid. You know, she always encouraged me, stood behind me, whatever you want to do, you know, as far as hunting and that kind of stuff. And oh, you want me to go drop you off? Oh, you want me to get you up in the morning? She'd get up, and her and my dad's relationship, they had a traditional marriage, you know. My dad would get up early. She'd get up earlier. She'd make breakfast, make his lunch for the day. He'd go to work. She'd putter around the kitchen, get things ready, have breakfast for my brothers and I, send us on our way. Then she'd stay home. Most of my childhood,
sure.
She would stay home, you know, and she would make homemade bread, and she'd do all these old school domestic
things. Yeah, I was going to say,
things.
It's real old school. Yep.
Yeah. And then later, like when I was in high school, she went to college and had a teaching degree certificate. So she had a biology degree and a home ec.
Oh, wow.
So she got a job, went back to work doing as a teacher when I was in high school. So that kind of took her away from some of that pampering I used to get.
Yeah.
But,
we did that. You and I did that interview article thing back last spring, you know, and I was actually really intrigued with the way you described how she'd take you up early in the morning,
mm-hmm.
and drop you off on the mountain,
mm-hmm.
and either wait there if it was like just an hour or two, or come back and get you.
Yeah. She would. Yeah. Sometimes she would even go. You know, she'd go along.
Yeah.
And just walk along just to see what happened.
Yeah. And that's kind of where your obsession with chasing elk came from.
Yeah.
A lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't play any sports in school. That's one, you know, kind of weird thing. The parents didn't really believe in sports, and you needed to be home.
Sure.
Doing home stuff. So I want to go hunting then. Okay. Well, they'll support that. So she would take me out and drop me off, or go along,
mm-hmm.
and that gave me the opportunity to really find myself, I guess.
Was your dad a big hunter, or?
He had been when he was a young man. My dad was 50 when I was born, so
yeah,
he was getting fairly old, long in the tooth, if you
long
will.
In the tooth. Yep.
By the time I'm, 12 years old, well, he's 62, right?
Yeah.
A lot of guys are kind of spinning out of their hunting years at that point. And from what he experienced in Weippe and Idaho, what had to offer when he was a young man, it was completely different. Very remote, lots of game, no people, and just perfect. Just every hunter's dream. But by the time I was starting to hunt, there were some people out there. I wouldn't say quite a few, but the game was not as plentiful, though I thought it was pretty plentiful, but he said it wasn't.
And compared to today's standards.
Yeah, and today, I mean, it was pretty plentiful, but nowadays it seems like it's not. But
yeah, no, definitely. So it's not like he was as enthusiastic about it as you are with your son, and so like it makes me wonder where did this come from? Where
I don't know. I've always had this. I call it a primal need to hunt. As long as I can remember, when I was a little kid, soon as fall would come, I'd get a feeling inside. I would get a feeling inside that I wanted to be outside. I wanted to. I should be. I was very taken by hunting. I wanted to do it. I scoured before I could read. I would just scour like hunting magazines, just flip through the pages and look at the pictures of bucks and elk and sheep and whatever. And that just I wanted to do that like nothing else. And I told my mom, I can't remember how old I was. We watched some TV program and it was some old school hunting. And I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and they were hunting for some sheep and this and that. And then they were elk hunting. I don't know where they were at, like in the Yukon or somewhere not in the United States. It was up north somewhere.
Canada somewhere.
And they shot, this big old bull. And I don't know if it was an Eastman's film or what. I don't know. I've never seen it since.
I have it pictured in I think I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea what it's called.
Yeah. And I watched that and I told my mom, I said, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. She's like, go hunting. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to go hunting and that'll be my job. And she's like, well, that's not really a job. I'm like, well, that's okay. But I've never past that point. I never really thought about someday.
Well, it's
I'm going to get paid to go elk hunting. I've never thought that again in my head, but thinking back, it was kind of funny too.
Reminds that movie, A River Runs Through It, and the little boy says, I'm going to be a professional fly fisherman when I grow up. And he's just blown away that doesn't exist in those times.
Yeah.
But so I love the way you put the primal urge and how you define that, because I think that's a lot. It's like that with a lot of hunters. Mm-hmm. For me, it's deep seated. I still picture going hunting with my dad before I was even in kindergarten in this old green tent trailer that we'd freeze our asses off in this thing. And, it's just that ever since then, that feeling that you get in the fall, you start seeing those leaves change a little bit, all that stuff building up to it. It's awesome because your parents, your mom, it's not like she wasn't supportive of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, she'd let me, my parents, they'd let me pack a gun around the house. I'd pack a rifle. This is going to be I can have that? Yeah, you can have it. Well, can I see it? I'd sit there and watch TV and snap the trigger at the TV. I mean, and I'd walk around the house with the gun in my hand all the time as a kid. And, some kids had a baseball or a basketball. I had a rifle in my hand at all times, sitting around the house.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I had a sister-in-law one time give me a really hard time when I was probably 13 or 14. She's like, "Oh God, you always have to have your gun in the picture." Because if you look back at family photos, if we're out in the woods, I'm strapped. I got a pistol on my side. I'm packing a rifle or I got a pistol, but I had it with me at all times.
Yeah.
And just I don't know. That's just what I was into.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
it was always safe.
It was natural for you.
Yeah, it was very natural and it was safe. So I'm pretty quick.
Yeah.
I'm pretty quick with the old.
You're pretty good, like Doc Holliday status.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty quick with slinging lead.
I like it.
You can ask Trent.
Okay, I'm going to ask him. What you kind of described your parents' marriage. What was it like with? They were always home, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of when Dad went to work during the day.
Yep.
And what did he do mainly?
So he was a heavy duty diesel mechanic most of the time when I was alive. But as a young man, when he first moved to Idaho, he felled timber and worked in the woods and then worked in a mill. Him and his brother had a sawmill for a while, and did timber industry stuff for his whole time in Idaho.
So that's if any of you guys listening have been to central North Idaho, it's like the mecca of the logging industry in a lot of ways. It's very timbered area. So
when people say, "Oh, you're from Idaho, huh? Potatoes."
Yeah, they think potatoes. I know.
You get socked in the mouth around here if you say that.
Yeah.
Because there's not a potato anywhere near here.
Yeah,
well, maybe in a garden, but
somebody's garden they might, but this is not potato farm country.
This
like
is evergreens.
Yeah, exactly. Super thick, super steep. Not a lot of potato farming. No. So now it's been a few months, and it's got to be tough. But what's it like now without having your mom around?
You hear people kind of describe that when you lose a loved one, it's like a part of you is gone, and it's true. And I felt that when I lost my dad. Because every time I'd get an elk or a deer or something, he was always the first, him or my mom, whoever was there, was the first person I would tell. Go home and say, "Look what I got," And as I grew up and had my own home and family away from them, then I would pick up the phone and call them right away. Whether it might be at 10 or 11 o'clock, and guess what? I got an elk, or first thing in the morning if it was super late when I get in. But not having that. Yeah, that was like a really a big loss, and then and just having your mom there. I mean, your mom makes everything better, right?
Yeah,
I was a little bit of a mama's boy. I'm not afraid to say it. When I was growing up, and mama always made things better. And anytime anything would bother me as an adult, I could talk to her, and she would kind of tell me this and that, and I may or may not like the advice. Sometimes the hardest or the best advice is the hardest to hear.
Yep.
But I'm missing that, and then just the time to go see her and visit, and taking the kids there.
Yeah.
And letting them
see grandma.
She had dementia, and dementia it's a horrible sickness that takes away the person you know.
Oh yeah. Yep.
She could remember a lot of old things, but not a lot of new things that were going on. As time would go by, as the disease progresses, it takes a lot of your memories and a lot of the thoughts and a lot of your personality. She had a lot of personality. She liked to laugh. She didn't laugh as much anymore. It got to the point where she didn't recognize my kids when we go there.
Oh, geez, I bet that was tough.
And it was really hard, on them. Because they were very close growing up. They'd go spend a lot of time at grandma's when they're little, and so it's been hard.
Gosh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it just that's a tough deal. So
thank you. And I had setbacks. It was you deal with grief. Everyone deals with it a little differently, and at first, I was just you kind of feel like, okay, we kind of expected it a little bit. But it's like almost like I don't know how to feel. I do feel bad, but then you don't know how to feel, and then all of a sudden, then it hits you, and then it hurts real bad, and then you try to find your way out of it. But then it took a lot of the wind out of my sails. I didn't really want to do anything. I had no motivation. I think she was always a big, like I said, she was always my biggest cheerleader. So that which gave me motivation to do everything, anything.
Yeah.
So it's like I kind of had that wind taken out of my sails to do extra, to do the things,
Sure.
So this summer it was a big setback. I started eating bad, and I didn't go hiking and lifting weights and doing all the stuff I should have been doing to prepare for elk season. So I went into elk season out of shape, overweight. Not quite, maybe not in the right frame of mind. She'd passed in June, and by the time September came, that's a few months, and I was starting to get my mind right. And going back to the woods was definitely medicine for that. It's definitely a good place to be if you want to heal. And but yeah, it was difficult.
I can't imagine with that. I think of I know people that are 30 years old that lost both their parents. And it's more expected when you start getting older.
Yeah.
But not, still doesn't take the sting away.
Yeah.
And I feel for you. I feel for you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a tough deal. You, maybe we should roll into some other stuff for a minute, huh?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. I always ask this question to everybody. What's the worst job you've ever had?
That's an easy one. So I was probably 15 years old. Yeah, 15. And got a job at this guy locally here, not too far out of Orofino. I lived in Weite, but it was a little bit of a drive. And he had a dairy farm. He was trying to gear up and get his stuff prepared to be his farm. I guess there's a big process. Have to have it inspected and everything. Because it's milk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a job there, working there, and it was just like grunt work. We were picking rocks out of the pasture, and we were there was a low spot, so there was a kind of a little pathway where the cows would have to walk through out of the pasture to go over and get on this concrete slab before they would go in to get milked. And there was about 2 feet of cow crap water there, and about 30 yards long and about 2 feet deep. So we had to ladle that with like 1 gallon buckets. Of course, this guy, he wasn't going to spend money on a pump.
Yeah.
He had to pump that out of there. So me and this lady that was working there, she actually got the job. One of my mom's friends got me this job. So her and I sit out there. If we weren't picking rocks, we were ladling the cow crap water out of this low spot, and then we took said rocks that we picked out of the pasture and put in the low spot. I mean, who does that?
What was the point of that?
Well, to build it up.
To build it up so it wouldn't pool up.
You'd have to have. It's like building the Great Wall of China, man. I mean, this was not some easy feat, one pebble at a time, right?
Oh, jeez.
So I was just like, well, it's fine, whatever.
That's awesome.
So then one day, he's like, yeah, we got a bunch of hay here for the cows. I need you to unload it. I'm like, okay, which I'd done a ton of work bucking hay bales for other farmers and stuff. And this truck gets here, and there's these bales are about 150 pounds apiece. They're huge and packed tighter that you could not hardly drive a hay hook into them. And you could not get your fingers into and under the baling wire. It was actually wire. It wasn't even twine. It was wire. I'm like, what do you want us to do? I mean, we cannot. Well, you have to unload it. So we had to unload this semi of these huge alfalfa packed tight 150-pound bales and then stack them. Dude, that's
brutal.
It was rough.
I used to do something similar to that. Yeah,
that's
brutal.
The whole time he's got a tractor sitting right there, and I'm like, let's just use your tractor. He's like, nope. Well,
it costs gas.
Yeah. Well, the week before I went to work for him, he'd rolled his tractor, and it darn near killed him.
Oh.
Like the whites of his eyes were completely brown because it burst all the blood vessels. He almost died.
Wow.
I'm like, just let me run. I'd run tractors a lot. I'm like, nope. Nobody's running that tractor. It'll kill you. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're an idiot. Okay, whatever. So we unloaded the hay. I worked there about a week and a half. And then one day he's like, yeah, I got a broken pipe under my house. I think I got a water pipe broke. You want to crawl under there and check it out? I'm like, okay. So I stick my head in the crawl space to look under the house. And there's about 2 feet of water.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, and I take one whiff. I'm like, this ain't just water. I said, you got a sewer pipe busted. He's like, well, crawl under there. Tell me where it's at. I'm not crawling under there. He's like, no, you can crawl in. Just crawl. Just tell me. It's just right over there, probably. I'm like, I'm not setting foot in that water.
It's like a crawl space.
It's full a crawl space
full of sewage.
Sewage. Yeah. He's like, you can just go over there. I'm like, nope. I said, I'm out. I quit. Well, and then he was mad. Well, you got to give me 2 weeks. And I said, I got to give you nothing. What you got to do is give me a paycheck. I'm out.
Yeah.
So he wrote me a check and never went back. Well, just so happens my best friend, Randy, I'd been kind of telling him about the work out there up until that point. Well, his first day to start was the next day.
Oh, geez.
He just got a job.
So you didn't give him a heads up before he headed out?
Well, I told him.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah. And he's like, I'm not crawling under there. Well, that's the next day, another boy showed up. He was from Orofino. And that kid crawled under there and figured it out.
Awesome.
And Randy worked there about a week and a half. And same thing, the hay truck showed up again. He's just like, I'm out. I'm not doing that. That's
a tough
stupid.
deal.
I'm not going to screw my back up.
Plus, it's working in any kind of farm ranch kind of scenario.
Oh, yeah.
It's bad for hunting.
Oh, yeah.
Bad for hunting season for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And it was hot.
Yeah.
It was 100 degrees up, and it was the worst job ever.
Was this before global warming or?
Yeah, that was way before.
Way before.
Yeah, that's back when we had, hot summers.
Yeah. Snow.
Instead of really hot summer. As we're looking at snow outside my house now.
Yeah. That kind of leads us into like this thought that I've had talking to you about how hunting has kind of affected your career choices, because now you work at Phelps, right?
Yeah.
And it's better than the dairy.
Oh yeah,
dairy
yeah,
farm?
a little bit.
And
I don't get the workout I did, but
okay, so scenario: Jason calls you and says there's a leak under his house, and you got to find it. You find out it's sewage. Are you going in there?
I'm out.
You're out.
I'm out.
Just that quick, huh?
I don't care if it's my house. There's people they pay for that, right? You can pay.
Yeah, they have
people
companies
to do that.
Yeah. What with hunting? How has that affected your career prior to coming to Phelps? And because this always interests me because I have literally quit jobs over hunting season.
Yeah.
And if my boss is listening, I will quit if you don't give me enough time off. Like, I'm just letting you know right now. Right? And so, what's your story on that?
Yeah, I've never had that luxury, to quit for hunting. I spent 18 years working at Les Schwab before I worked at Night Force, where I worked before I worked for Phelps. So, and at Les Schwab, I usually got a little bit of time off to hunt, for bow season for sure. For November deer season, no, it was a 6 day a week gig at that point.
Everybody rolling into getting winter tires and all that. Yeah.
Snow tires. So
gotcha.
So, that was kind of crazy. And I probably would have quit, but I had a wife and two babies at home, and there's not a lot of quit. I couldn't really do that. Yeah, I
should probably correct. The jobs I've quit were way before I had babies.
Yeah.
It was like I can get the same job somewhere else next week.
Exactly.
You would say you've got a hunting obsession, right? I mean, is that safe to say?
I don't know if it's an obsession.
Yeah.
I don't know. People throw that around, obsession around a lot. That's a term I think people use loosely, kind of like the word epic.
Epic, yes.
Epic. When somebody describes something to me, the epic, I always think, but was it?
It's really kind of
how epic was it? Because it seems like anytime once you find out how epic it was, it's like, well, it was pretty good. It wasn't quite epic.
Yeah.
So, but obsession, I don't know if it's an obsession really. It's more of it's just who I am. It's how I identify. It's how I know me is me. If I could not hunt, I wouldn't be me anymore.
Sure.
I'd be a miserable shell of what I once was. It makes me happy. It makes me tick. It's like I told my wife, her and I were talking the other day. I said, hunting has always been my why. The reason I get up every day, the reason to do extra, the reason to live, really. I mean, some people live to hunt. Well, I hunt to live. It's kind of weird. It's kind of I kind of feel sometimes I'm a little shallow because the things I'm into are just pretty narrow. I'm not into sports. My wife, she'll sit here and watch football. I mean, and I'm like a complete woman. Sorry, ladies, but I sit over here. I'm like,
that was sexist.
That was very sexist. But I'm not the least bit interested in watching football or basketball or baseball or
I'm not either.
Any of that stuff. But I don't geek out watching the Outdoor Channel. I don't geek out watching the Sportsman's Channel because a lot of that's fluff. I think it's just like it's hey, look at me and let's make something out of nothing instead of like what you see on YouTube. There's a lot of good YouTube stuff now that it's real stuff.
It captures everything, not just the the setup. It's not staged.
Yeah,
and that's what I think you're getting at. I think,
and it's not a lot of the footage is not perfect, and a lot of the personalities are not some big charismatic person, but they're just being real. Yeah. And everybody's got a little bit of humor in them in their own little way. And everybody's got a uniqueness in their personality. And you get to see that on YouTube, which television, you don't really get to see the real people, I don't think, as much.
No, I totally agree.
So,
I think it's filming. It's like canned. It's canned stuff, you know. And so, like with YouTube, what I really like about it is the educational side, because you're actually seeing how real people really hunt, whether it's elk or deer or whatever you like. When you guys are going out with a born and raised crew, the different personalities and how they approach hunting scenarios and hunting situations is totally gold for somebody like me, right? You know, and so, because man, I was taught how to hunt elk totally wrong. Like I thought you hunted them like deer for the longest time, and so I spent like a lot of these years just totally messing it up and not getting anything down, because I it was totally different than what I'm used to now. What working with Phelps now has that changed anything about the way you view or perceive hunting, or how has that affected you hunting wise?
As far as my hunting, it's good because I get to go more. Yeah, you get to go. So are you saying you get paid to hunt, or is that? Yeah, I guess in the long and short of it, I went hunting the whole month of September, except for when I was sitting here being a baby about my arm. Yeah. I was hunting, so I guess I got paid to go hunt.
Man, that's awesome. So, how did this come about with Phelps?
I've been working at Night Force for almost 9 years.
Night Force Optics?
Yeah, Night Force Optics right here in Orfino, and I changed departments, and I just wasn't feeling it. And Jason and I had talked, over the years, like, you should just quit your job and come work for me. Joking around. And one day I got to the point, I'm like, hey, were you serious about that? Because I think I'm ready to jump. And he's like, well, let me think about it. Let me talk to the wife. So him and Sandy talked about it, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I jumped ship and been doing this ever since.
And that was last summer, right? 2019.
Yeah. I think May 1st was my first day. So.
And you're in charge of marketing?
Yeah, marketing, sales and marketing.
Sales and marketing.
It's kind of a big title.
It's a very fancy title.
Yeah, it's a very fancy, a lot fancier than what I do.
What's super ironic is I have a commercial that I made for Phelps.
Oh yeah, really?
And it's for sale.
Okay.
So I'm gonna play it for you.
All right.
Are you ready for this? Guy. All right. Let me get this thing loaded here. Here we go.
Okay.
I didn't know what buglinocytis for elkanoptropy even was when my symptoms first began. I thought this was just my new norm. Gray and balding hair, morose-smelling feet, braided nose hair. I felt alone and confused all the time. I had a difficult time bugling, and my cow calls sounded flat-out disturbing. Friends would shun me and no longer wanted me around to drink obscure craft beer. I could hardly get out of bed and was worried sick about my split ends. My wife began calling me
the fat ass
and wanted me to make more money. I didn't even know how my dog identified anymore. Appalled with my condition, my doctor prescribed me Phelps game calls before security removed me from his office. My diagnosis with buglinocytis for elkanoptropy was severe and explained many of my symptoms. I was a little skeptical at first, even though Phelps game calls were the highest rated, gluten-free, organic, environmentally friendly, politically correct, most honorable, sugar-free, best scent reduction, extremely fashionable, bipartisan, and most impeachable cures on the market. Changes happened fast. Within weeks, I felt like my buglinocytis for elkanoptropy was finally under control. My gray hair disappeared and grew into glorious brown strands of desire. I was sipping normal beer once more. Cow called like a pro, and I felt like a real man again. Even my wife mentioned that my Phelps game calls made me one sexy son of a bitch.
You sexy son of a bitch.
So what can I say except, thanks Phelps game calls, for giving me my life back.
People with moderate to severe buglinocytis for elkanoptropy should consult a doctor before beginning a regimen of Phelps game calls. Men with high cholesterol, diarrhea, abnormal sensitivities, fibromyalgia, constipation, Doug Flutinitis, irrational fears, can't change a tire, bum zits, or are pregnant should not take Phelps game calls.
Side effects include itchy butt cheeks, loss of direction, sweaty palms, finger fungus, hair lip, pulled muscles, loss of appetite, anal leakage, inspired hairstyles, enlarged willy, icky back, icky knees, icky arms, achy split ends, bad breath, taste bud odor, dead battery, cold bath water, flaky skin, burnt pizza, annoyed neighbors, prolific talking during movies, flat tire, stubbed toe, contusions, hip trouble, acne, back hair, chafing, shaved armpits, lazy eye, heightened sense of smell, from cheese, cold sores, rib blisters, restless leg syndrome, fat dog, low nitrate count, lacerations, leaky skin rash, poor hygiene, and explosive swamp ass.
Don't you deserve better? In fact, don't you owe it to yourself to ask your doctor about Phelp's game calls? I'm sure glad I did. All right, what'd you think, man?
I think that was pretty awesome. Probably sell a lot of calls.
I think you will.
Yeah.
I think you will. And so, what my thought is $75,000
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take that back to the
per
boss
month.
man.
Per month.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty
You
reasonable.
don't even need to take it back to him. You can sign it right here.
That's a lot less money than I make a month.
Oh, I think it's reasonable. It's this is an international commercial.
Yeah.
We could play it anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
In international waters even.
Phelp's got the dough, right? He's got that kind of cash.
Oh yeah. That's like pocket lint.
How's it working out? Working remotely?
Good and bad. Good and bad.
You like it?
Yes and no. I miss my peeps back at Night Force. I worked with a bunch of really, really great people that I became really good friends with, and we all had the same, mindset, do good things at work, and so that was always easy. So the work was the easy part because everybody come to work, everybody's on board. Let's just get it done.
Yeah.
And then shenanigans. Oh man, the shenanigans that we went through there. It was funny. You think Born and Raised stuff is funny? Oh my gosh.
Did you guys record it? You
No.
could have put a YouTube series out.
No. The IT guy might have it recorded on the video cameras or the security cameras, but man, we had a blast, and I enjoyed going to work every day.
That's awesome.
It was one of those things where I get to go to work. I don't have to go to work. So,
Yeah.
So I tried to make, every day I would try to make it that kind of a work environment around myself. And it seems like if you can go to work and bring that to work with you, the people around you that may not be feeling that way that day, it'll make them start feeling that way.
Oh, for sure.
It'll get their mind off of whatever's bothering them. Because you know what? We all have personal lives that we don't share. And sometimes we're off. Sometimes we're angry. Sometimes we're sad. And if you can come to work and laugh a little bit and not sweat the little things, you can have a pretty good time.
For sure. Yeah. Similar situation. I've got a home office and pretty remote, and it gets lonely now, right? Yeah. So, with you guys had quite the shenanigans over the summer between the pink and the red Maverick, the Maverick and the pink, right? It was super entertaining.
Oh yeah,
I had a good time.
Yeah, that wasn't even planned.
Really?
I just thought I'd start talking some crap on social media about Jason's call, and then he replied something to it, and then I'm like, well, I can't let him one up me. So then I replied another meme to his meme.
Oh, gotcha.
And then before you know it, we're having a meme war, right? Dissing each other. And now we've got, a lot of our followers. They're making memes and sending them to us.
Yeah.
And some of them were awesome, and we shared them, and some were awesome and inappropriate. We couldn't share with nobody. It's like, oh my god!
You can send that stuff to me. I'll share it.
I'll send it right to you.
I have no shame.
It was so fun though.
And then you guys made a bet.
We made a bet.
Which one? The pink versus Maverick. Who's going to outsell it? Who was the winner?
Yeah. Well, we didn't really want to tell anybody. We were both losers because we acted like such goofballs and took up so much of people's time. So
the pink one.
I wouldn't say that. I would don't put words in my mouth.
I'm going to get this out of you before this thing's over.
I'll never tell.
And so you, what was your costume in Born and Raised?
I was Macho Man Randy Savage. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And what was Jason?
He was Hulk Hogan, brother.
We were talking before we started hitting record, and what I wanted to see is some random hunter that is like on the next ridge over, seeing a guy's dressed like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, on the other ridge bugling.
That happened.
Yeah,
that happened. Phelps, some guy was on the other ridge, seen him walking up the ridge, and the guy took his cell phone and took a picture through his binoculars of Phelps walking up the hill dressed like Hulk Hogan.
Oh, that's awesome.
With a bright yellow shirt, red pants, and a bright yellow bandana.
And so he got like a phone scope picture?
Yeah, through his binocular, like a pretty fuzzy one. So a couple days later, Phelps runs into this guy, and he's like, yeah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, I've seen all sorts of weird people this year. There's some idiot over there, red pants and yellow shirt. And he goes, that was me.
I would pay money to see that guy's reaction. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's videoed too. So of Phelps's hunt with him on opening day wearing his Hulk Hogan suit. I'm not going to give away any spoilers on it.
It's not released yet?
No, I got to edit it. I haven't even looked at it yet. So,
yeah. Looking forward to it then.
Yeah, people are they're gonna laugh.
Where are people going to be able to find that?
It'll be on Phelps Game Calls YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel for Phelps?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
And you're so, by the way, the Maverick one?
The Maverick one?
Yeah,
the one
you outsold, yeah.
Oh no, I didn't say it. No,
you didn't say that.
No,
okay.
No.
So the pink was definitely came out on top.
No.
But where's your bugle at? You got. I want to hear a nasty bugle.
It's here somewhere. I'll grab it. Just a second.
All right.
I almost feel like
find it.
I almost feel like Ron Burgundy when he pulls the flute out of his sleeve. Oh, I guess I could play. Promises here. This reed I put them back in my case. This has been in there since October. It's a little bit beat up, chewed on.
Got some miles.
It's got some miles. So
yeah, let's hear
I don't
it.
even know if it's going to make a sound. And plus, my bugling arm is in a sling.
I know.
It's
what are we going to do with that?
It's like kryptonite, bro.
Do you need my help? I can hold the bugle for you.
That'd be a little weird.
Yeah, but it'd be a little awkward, right? I don't know you that well.
That's like asking another man to zip his pants. I don't think we're there yet, Jim.
Yeah, we don't use the pink Phelps, is it?
No, that's no bueno. Okay, let's see if.
All right, let's rip off a bugle.
No, make a cow call.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it still works.
It works. It sounds great, man.
Yeah.
What are you guys coming up with Phelps? What, anything new people need to be watching for, looking out for?
Oh, yeah. We got some cool stuff in the works. We're going to start ramping up on turkey calls a bit. A deer grunt call.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I could use that.
Yeah, we have a blacktail fawn bleat call.
Uh-huh.
Phelps says it calls deer like a mofo. He said you start honking on that thing over on the west side of Washington, and does just come beating feet to you running.
Blacktail?
Blacktail.
Really?
Which, in the rut, if there's a buck on their tail, it might draw them to you. So that'd be kind of cool. But one of the guys on Meat Eater said that thing works like gangbusters on calling bears.
Oh, you know what? I heard that episode. Yeah, I remember him talking about that.
Yeah, so I said, hey, send me one of those things. And by the time it got here, my deer season was over. I think he did that on purpose.
You try it for spring bear?
But I might do that for spring bear, I think. Yeah, I think I could get into that.
I might try that.
And we're working on an external mouthpiece for a bugle tube.
Awesome.
For those folks who can't use a diaphragm reed that gives them the gag or the tickle, it's going to be an external mouthpiece. We've been working on it, refining it. We want this thing to be user-friendly, super easy to where any Joe Schmo that picks it up, that's never held an elk bugle in their life, can pick it up and start making some bugles, and with a bit of practice, make some pretty realistic bugles. And we want it to be realistic and durable too. And we want you want the reed part to be durable, and man, we're getting close. So I'm super excited about that to come out. We're hoping to have that for like a mid-2020 release. So
gotcha. So all nice and ready for season and everything, gearing up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
When is that blacktail call going to be ready?
I think he has a handful of them now.
Really?
I don't know if they're on the website, but if you email him, he'll be like, yeah, I'll send you one.
That's awesome.
So
what? Let's kind of shift gears here and talk about filming with Born and Raised.
Yeah.
What What is that like? I want to know some like behind the scenes kind of thing.
It's a very loosey goosey. You show up to camp. There's no rules. There's no agenda. Nobody knows really what we're gonna do. Where are we going?
So it's as raw as it appears,
it's
right?
fly by the seat of your pants as it gets. Well, I think we'll go over here. What do you think? Well, we might. It's very unstructured, so that's kind of weird, kind of different for me. I kind of like to have things nailed down where I'm going to go. That way, I got all my plans A, B, C, D, and E. Mm-hmm. But like super easy going. It's a good time. It's none of this. Well, I bugle better than you, so I get to call. No, I get to bugle better than you, so I call her. Why did you do that? You're an idiot. There was. Yeah. You made the wrong call, or you did the wrong thing. There's none of that.
It takes the stress out of it.
Yeah, it takes all the stress out of it. We all kind of said, hey, my main focus here, I just want to have a good time. Let's have a good time. Let's have some fun. And go chase some bulls around and maybe get one. And
it really shows. I mean, those videos, you watch it, it looks like you guys are having fun. They're fun to watch, and it makes people, I think, want to have that kind of fun and be out there hunting like that. Yeah.
I think if you get too serious and you get too deep, like we have to succeed. Yeah. If you start having that kind of attitude, it builds against you, and then you start making mistakes. You start making little mistakes because you push too hard at the wrong times, and then you're making mistakes, and then it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, the pressure. creates
unneeded pressure.
Mm-hmm. I actually completely agree. That's always been my deal. Is I think that I've hunted with people in the past where I've kind of turned them off because I didn't take it serious enough, right? For them, it was all, there's no fun in games until something's down.
Right.
And I disagree with that philosophy. What's the point if it's miserable?
Right.
No, you're exactly right.
Because either way, it doesn't matter whether you take it super serious or if you take a jolly, look at it. You're still going to have slow times. You're still going to have days where bulls don't bugle. You're still going to have things that screw up and blow up in your face. Mm-hmm. But if you take it lightheartedly, it ain't a big deal. You brush it off. It's like, well, we screwed that up. That's okay. We'll go get another one. Or,
try again.
I scared him away. Whatever. It don't matter. You're going to go do it again. And by the way, you look like a girl. I mean, you can talk a little smack to each other, and have a good time,
and dress like wrestlers,
dress like Macho Man Randy Savage, and Nacho Trente. No, it's a lot funner way to hunt.
Yeah, no, that's why you guys are so entertaining watching that stuff. It's awesome. What the video didn't show it. Exactly, but what happened with crossing the creek?
Yeah, we didn't. Man, of all the times not to have the camera running, right? Dang it.
Yeah, I wanted to see some carnage, man, and there was no carnage.
It'd have been pretty lackluster. It was like a tiny little creek, and we had to cross this creek like 8 times total. So we're on creek crossing number 6 probably of hiking back out, and I'd been just wading right through the water because I got boots with Gore-Tex. They're waterproof. Why risk slipping on a rock trying to and then you slip on the rock and get your boots wet anyway, probably. Yeah. So I just kind of been walking right through the water. Well, we were getting pretty close to camp, probably another, I don't know, little bit, and quarter mile maybe. And Trent, I was just right behind him. We were kind of walking at a pretty fast pace, and he kind of did this little hopscotch thing across, some high rocks that were not underwater. Went right across, and brain on autopilot, I did the same thing, but I hit a different rock on the far bank that he did, and it was slick, and I slipped and fell face first. It just super fast. Wasn't like a whoa. It was just down, just fast, super fast. And I had my bow in my left hand, and my right hand was free. So I put my right hand out and then tossed my bow.
You had a pack on,
and I had a big pack on. I had about a 40-pound pack on, and whenever I landed, it was like almost like you were trying to do a push-up, about that kind of a posture with my arm, and I heard a big pop, and then I'm like, oh, I'll get up, it didn't really hurt. But I'm like, get up here, and I tried to move my arm, and my arm was underneath me by then, and I couldn't move it. I'm like, Trent, can you help me up? I can't move I can't get myself up. Sorry. And he comes over and lifts me up, and is like, we have a problem. My arm has no feeling in it, and I can't even really move my fingers right now. He's like, oh no. He's like, okay, hold on. Let me start videoing.
Yeah.
You got a video of this. I'm like, no, by all means, please do. So I took my shirt off, put it in the creek, got it all wet because it was hot, and I just like I just feel weird right now. I need cool water on me. So I got cooled off, and it was just numb. It didn't really hurt that bad. He's like, well, here, let me take your pack. No, I'll pack it. He wouldn't let me pack my bow or my pack. No, you just walk. I'm like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
I could have done it. He's like, nope, you're not. So we walk all the way out and get to the river and cross the river. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go to town and get checked out. Well, we'll go with you. I'm like, no, you don't have to go. You guys go hunting. Don't take your time away. I'm like, there's nothing you can do. I mean, you're just going to sit there and look at me. He's like, are you kidding me? We're not going hunting. We're going with you. So, which that kind of proved to be, I think that kind of speaks volumes of character there, right there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That they were, completely took that rest that day and devoted it to me making sure I got medical attention. Yeah. And the doctor, he thought maybe I'd partially dislocated my shoulder, but it wasn't dislocated anymore. It went back in. He's like, yeah, you'll probably be okay in a couple days. Yeah. Just take it easy. Here's a prescription for a couple of anti-inflammatory pain reliever things, and give that a shot. Just take it easy.
I got the sense he didn't feel like it was that big of a deal at the time.
Yeah, he didn't think it was too bad.
Yeah.
Probably, I probably didn't have a lot of signs of like, oh my God, it hurts, because it didn't really hurt that bad. And so we would go have dinner and have a couple beers, and like, all right, well, let's go back. And we sit around camp for a while and visited, and it's like, okay, it's bedtime. I went and laid down, and I laid down and kind of dozed off, and within, 5-10 minutes, I woke back up, and my arm was just aching to beat the band. And it's like, okay. Wow. Okay, so I was laying on my back, and I'm a side sleeper, so I flip over on the one side and kind of position my arm to where maybe it won't hurt. And it still hurt. So I finally had to get up, get in the front seat of the pickup, and kind of sleep upright that night. Next morning, I'm like, guys, I can't. This is a backpack hunt. There's no way I'm going to be able to sleep backpacking. I guess I could lean against a tree, but what I'm really afraid of is slipping. It's very steep, rugged
making
terrain.
It worse.
And put my arm out and brace myself and injuring it worse. And they're like, no, don't. By all means, if you don't feel like you should. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to go. So headed home, and it was a long drive.
Yeah, what day was that?
That was September 4th that I heard it.
So September.
5th, okay. I headed home.
So 5th of September, your shoulder's pretty jacked up.
Yeah.
And you got to leave Wyoming, and you're heading home.
Yeah, and I had the dream season lined up because I got the whole month to hunt. I was going to hunt in Wyoming. Then I was going to go directly from Wyoming to New Mexico and hunt in New Mexico, and then turn right around and go up to my old stomping grounds in North Idaho. So it's just like I had this dream season set up, and now I have the nightmare season.
Yeah.
Has come to fruition.
Man, that would be a pretty rough drive back.
Yeah.
What happened once you got home? What was going through your mind?
Well, it started feeling a little better, and we were kind of hopeful. And it's like, well, maybe the doctor's right. I'm going to ice this thing and, just be really good to it and not try anything. And maybe I'll be able to pull a bow here by the time my drop dead date before I have to leave for New Mexico.
So you were still hoping to try to get to New Mexico? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, power of positive thinking. It's like, it'll come around, because I've sprained my ankle and stuff before. It's like, it hurts pretty bad, and then like, I think I can go, and then you start using it, and like, no, it's fine. The arm wasn't doing that. There was absolutely no way I could draw my bow. I mean, I couldn't hardly reach up with my hand and scratch my nose at that point. Then my wife and I went to town, went to Lewiston, and we were getting into the vehicle, and I stepped off the curb to get into the vehicle. Well, where the cement met the asphalt, there was a big drop, like a 4-inch drop. I couldn't see, it was dark, and I stepped right on the edge, and I kind of stumbled. Well, I put my bad arm out to catch myself, on the door of the car, and holy moly, about pissed my pants. It was like no pain I've ever had before, and I screamed like an Apache, man. I just she's like, what? And I just collapsed to the ground and just crying.
Damn.
And I drug myself into the rig. I'm like, I think any hopes that I had of going to New Mexico, they're out the window now, because this is a big setback, because now it hurts bad. Like, it kind of hurt before pretty good. It ached, but now it was on fire. And so then now I knew that now I'm not going to be able to hunt out this year. The rest, I'm not going to be able to hunt with a bow. Probably not with a rifle even.
I was going to say it'd be pretty tough with a rifle.
Even with a rifle.
Yeah.
I mean, just to hold the rifle up and to squeeze off a trigger and then have the recoil, that'd have been tough. So,
man,
I've decided, well, I guess I'm not going to. So we came home, of course, and I sat around the house for a couple days, 2 or 3 days. And, so I got pretty depressed. I'm like, I'm in a bad place, because like I said, I hunt to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my why. That's my why.
Devastating. Yeah.
Yeah, it was devastating. And I feel kind of selfish for having those kind of thoughts, because you look at other people who have had setbacks, let's say they're an amputee, or they have real problems. I just hurt my arm, but they have real problems. And as I sit here, I was kind of moping around for a day or two, and then I start thinking about that. I'm like, you need to quit being a wimp. There's people that have real problems. I know a guy who don't have, he doesn't have anything from the knees down. And he goes hunting, and he does Ironman, and he does all of these other things, and you don't see him sitting around, crying about it. So, and I knew about mouth tabs. I'd kind of seen over the years, like Larry D. Jones. I think even Dwight Schrute might even had one. But the mouth tab thing, I'm like, well, could I do it? I mean, that seems like that's one of those things, like picking up a bow for the first time. You probably need like months of practice.
A few months at least.
My wife's like, you should just try it and just see what happens. I'm like, I don't know. So she went to work. And by the end of that, I don't know, she left about 7 o'clock that morning. And by 9 o'clock, I was grabbing my bow. And I drove to List, and I'd watched a couple of YouTube videos on these guys. One guy was John Dudley from Knock On TV. He had something wrong with his shoulder and did the mouth tab thing, and he shot a grizzly bear with his.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
And then there's a gentleman.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And then there's a gentleman who is an Olympic shooter, does the para. He's a para-Olympian or something. He does para-athlete. He has one leg and one arm.
And he uses a mouth tab.
And he sits from a shooting position. And I'm like, this guy's got a real problems.
Yeah.
I've just got a kind of a sore arm that I can't draw my bow with.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. So I called my buddy Justin Grimes at Diamondback shooting down there, and I said, hey, I need to get this bow set up with a mouth tab. What do you think? Do you know anything about that? He's like, I don't know a thing about it, but bring a YouTube video and we'll figure it out. I'm like, great. So I loaded up my crap. I went down there. I bought a dog collar and like a nylon dog collar, and kind of watched the video on how to set it all up. So Justin set it up, and we had to adjust, draw length. We had to adjust the draw length 6 times probably to try to get it fine-tuned, and then he had to, tune the bow and do all this stuff. And then I spent all afternoon there, and I left there shooting. I could shoot pretty good, actually. It was weird, awkward the first time I pulled it back and released. I'm like, I think my face is going to fall off, or, it's such a weird first-time thing.
Does it make it what makes me nervous when I'm watching you do that is I feel like it's going to snatch one of my teeth or something.
Yeah.
Does that happen? Or
No.
Okay, good.
No, not even a chance of it. But once you get your brain past that all weirdness, then it's good. Then you're like, okay, now I can start now I can start paying attention to my form, and how I hold my neck. Do I tip my head this way? Do I tip my head that way? How am I holding my arm? How am I gripping the bow? You have to go through all it's no different than like drawing it with your arm, except, you have to maintain a good shooting posture. And 5 days later, I'm ready to go. I called my camera guy. I said, "Hey, come on up if you want to still go." And he's like, "Heck yeah." So he came up and we went hunting.
And then you go through all that, and your camera guy has the gall to call you a cat person out on public. I mean, what are we going to...
Somebody called me a cat bugler instead of a cat burglar.
The cat bugler. Let me hear you bugle a cat right now. No response.
Yeah, the cat ran.
And you got a bull with this thing.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
I don't want to give the whole thing away because my video series, but I did get a bull. So far, what you've seen in the series, and actually tonight, I'll just say it because by the time this airs, so day 1, I call in this bull. He comes in madder than hell.
Yeah.
And 25 yards, I pass him up. I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna shoot him. I want to see what happens because it's day 1. I got a camera guy. He drove all the way up here. I drug him all the way up here. I don't want to tag out on day 1. We got lots of more hunting to do, and there's maybe some big ones.
And a video series to do.
We can't make this epic. I wanted to go for an epic hunt. We can't make it epic if you shoot one on the first day.
Sure.
Even if you do shoot it with your teeth.
Yeah.
So, and then...
it just sounds funny, shoot it with your teeth.
Right?
Yeah.
So the first day, the first opportunity, it was 25 yards. Then he came to about 15, and then he circled up the hill about another shot at 15. So I had 3 opportunities. I could have shot that sucker, and then he spooked off.
And he's the one that was going to the right, and you kind of directed him back by adjusting the direction you're bugling.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I don't know if that's 100% like that's why it worked, but I've done that a lot over the years, and it has worked.
What you did is you explained it at the end of the video, right? And you're like, okay, I wanted the bull to come this way, and so I pointed my bugle tube that way and ripped a bugle off. Before you explain that, that's what I got out of it. He's like, oh, okay, he just changed direction, and it literally turned the bull.
Yeah.
And he came into that awesome shooting lane, and you have like crazy good discipline to not shoot that thing. So,
yeah. So then day 2 was pretty boring. A lot of rain, a lot of hiking. I think we made a 6 or 7 mile hike loop in the rain. Didn't have much going on. The third day, my son was there with us again, and I call in this bull to about. He was 5 or 10 yards away. I couldn't shoot him either. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. He was a young bull, and I'm like, I'm having too much fun doing this. I'm not ready to shoot one yet. This is way too fun.
It drives people crazy when you're passing these bulls.
They're gonna really be mad because I
That's awesome.
I call him in. He comes up and he kind of spooks off pretty quick. But I was dialed. I had him right. I drew on him and I was following him, and as soon as he just hesitated, I could have laid the wood to him. But anyway, then he buggers off. I call him back, and he comes over in the brush and rakes a tree for a little bit, and then kind of messes around the brush, and then comes in and starts coming back in frontal. And he was probably 15, 20 yards at this point, and then he starts sniffing, and then he catches our wind and runs off. And then he kept bugling across the creek there, so it was crazy.
Thought something was up, huh? And so you're not gonna get into save it because your video's coming out. Yeah. We're gonna watch. How many more videos are there now at this point?
Tonight is day 3 of the hunt.
3.
So and there's 9 episodes of hunting.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
So and they're listed out kind of funny. It's like it does say day 10 on the last one, but day 5 and 6 are pretty much the combination day because we didn't hunt on day 5. We had issues.
And besides the little side story diary thing the camera guy's doing, he's working out pretty good. New cameraman.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Dusty.
Dusty
Roop. Yeah. he's from Boise.
Oh really?
Yeah. Super, super good guy. Just the guy was just all ears and happy to he was there more to pick up on some calling strategies and elk hunting than he is for anything. He was just like all in. He like when I didn't shoot that first one, he's like, what's wrong? You couldn't shoot. You couldn't see him good enough. I'm like, no, I could have. I just didn't want to. Are you kidding me? He was pretty let down. I'm like, it's fine. We'll have more opportunities.
Is he going to be coming with you next year?
I think so.
Awesome.
He says he'll make it work with his schedule, so I hope he can.
What does he do besides that?
He does IT stuff.
Oh, does he? Okay, so yeah he could probably help me get this podcast studio set up a little bit better, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a little mobile studio I'm using.
Oh yeah.
This ain't no meat eater studio.
No, not quite.
Yeah. And then what next year you're going to stick with the mouth tab, huh?
Yeah. I just figure I might as well, go
rest of your life
elk hunting with my one hand tied behind my back.
Matches of pink Phelps.
Yeah, that too.
Situation.
Yeah. Since no, I'm giving away that mouth tab bow at the end of the series. I'm giving it away. So one lucky viewer of the series that signs up, they're gonna win that thing. So.
Yeah.
I hope it goes to somebody that just has shoulder surgery or has a disability or something.
What do they have to do to get signed up for that again?
So in the description under each YouTube video, there's a link that says sign up to win right here. And you just click that link and it takes you to my website and you just put in your name and your email address and boom, you're registered to win. And we're giving away like a cool Cordova cooler and some tumblers from those guys and some hats. And I'm giving away a really cool elk print from Crawford Stevens Art, and I'm going to give away a bunch of Phelps game calls and swag, and some of my Bugler swag, and some of my calls. So
is that it? That's all you're giving away? That's it.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's bribery, but it's like everybody's going to sit through this and watch it. I might as well give some stuff away. Why not?
I think
what they do, right?
For a lot of reasons, these series, there's always giveaways on them, right?
Yeah.
It adds to the fun. It's not about the stuff. I think it just adds to the fun. It's like you're getting into a competition,
right?
Kind of thing, and see what wins. But
I'd feel weird if I didn't give stuff away. I think.
Yeah.
But everybody else, I better give some stuff away too.
Yeah, you got to give something away.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's actually a pretty good list.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that big.
Yeah, there's some good stuff there.
So, what was I going to ask you about that? Besides the pink Phelps that outsold the Maverick, I can't remember.
No, I don't know why you think that.
Oh, so you're saying the Maverick one?
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, okay. You're not gonna give me an
answer?
I
wouldn't say either way. But
I'm gonna sneak in a sneaky way. I'm gonna get the answer out of you.
You can't be putting out fake news.
Hashtag fake news. Let's talk a little bit serious for a minute on wolves.
Yeah.
I want to kind of make it a point, especially somebody like you that's you've been hunting Idaho a long time in the West, and you were hunting these mountains prior to the reintroduction of wolves.
Yeah.
What's changed since then?
Everything. The mountains are still beautiful, and the vistas are still great for pictures, but now there's no game. There's very little game in comparison to what we had before.
Yeah.
There's elk, there's deer, but not a lot of them. Back in the old days, there'd be a herd of elk you'd find a herd of elk. There'd be 20 elk in it, maybe 30. Today, you might see 3 elk in a herd, or 6. 6 would be a lot.
Yeah, 6 would be a lot.
In North Idaho. Back then, each large drainage would have a number of elk in it.
Uh-huh.
You could be like, well, we've hunted this drainage enough. Let's go to the next big drainage, and you would go into new elk. Now you'll go 6 drainages of no elk before you find very few elk. There'll be a few there. So, the traditional, I'm going to go set up my wall tent, and, the romance of setting up your tent and having the wood and having a beautiful camp, and we're going to hunt this spot the whole time, whether it's a week or the whole season or a weekend or whatever, we're going to hunt this spot the whole time. You can't do that now, because you may never see a single elk. You may not see an elk track or an elk herd now, because the landscape is a lot of it is a wasteland of living of deer and elk.
What do you say to the people that are they make these statements like, well, in Yellowstone, they've really helped the ecosystem, and the rivers are flowing better, and the fish are biting on more flies, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I call those people fools. Anybody that can think that's okay is a pretty shallow thinking person. Okay, they may say, well, ever since the wolves came in and ate up all the elk in Yellowstone, we now have willows. We've traded elk for willows and beaver and blah, blah, blah. But they didn't tell you the part of the story where they transplanted all these beaver back in Yellowstone. They didn't just magically appear overnight like pussy willows used to pop geese off of them back in the 16th century. You know, it's not that kind of thinking. You know, they transplanted beavers there. They've traded a place that was unique like nowhere else on Earth for something that's average at best. I've been to Yellowstone after. I never went to it when they had elk there. I've been to it twice since in modern times. I saw 4 elk in Yellowstone the first time I went there. The second time I went there, I saw 4 elk, and they were almost within the same 100-yard stretch. Might have been the same ones, and it was a couple years apart.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not hitting it the right time.
No, you're exactly right. I used to go to Yellowstone as a kid, and there were elk everywhere, standing in the rivers. Anyway, didn't mean to cut you off.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And you hear this among hunters, though. You know, maybe some folks that have lived and hunted South Idaho their whole life. They're like, yeah, we got wolves, but they're just not that bad. Yeah, those people that say they're bad, it's an exaggeration.
Yeah, come to North Idaho.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, if you haven't lived here and hunted here, you don't know. You have no idea. I hunt all over the West. I've hunted Montana. They've got wolves. I've hunted Wyoming. They've got wolves. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got grizzly bears. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess what else they got? Elk.
Yeah.
North Idaho is very different than everywhere else. And some people will argue, well, it's not the wolf's problem. It's a habitat issue. You know, all the 1910 fires, all the brush and trees and things that were letting the elk thrive 30 years ago. Well, the elk can't eat it now. So now they're not thriving. There's no food for the elk to eat, and that's why there's no elk. It has nothing to do with wolves.
It's BS.
Well, you hunt North Idaho. All you're doing is walking through elk food all day long.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic elk habitat.
It is.
I mean, and they have more cover here than anywhere else throughout the American West.
Yeah.
And what we were talking about, what I think that people don't connect the dots when they talk about, well, let's release these wolves and allow nature to balance itself out with little management by man, right? But what they're not taking into account is, since the last time wolves were here, there's now freeways and encroaching cities and new developed areas where the migration and everything else affects these elk, right? And so they get trapped in these areas, and it's just, you know, easy picking for a herd of wolves or a pack of wolves. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think that's a disconnect that people have.
Yeah. I'll take it one further. Biologists and wolf experts and wolf advocates will argue, guys, these are the same wolves. A wolf's a wolf. DNA, they're no different. The Canadian gray wolf is no different than the timber wolves Idaho had. But I'll tell you this. How is a Labrador different than a rat terrier? They're completely two different animals. They're
even
designed,
personality.
Yeah, they've been bred since the dawn of time of that species, of that particular breed, to do whatever specific task. It's been bred into them. It's been trained into them. It's in their DNA. That's in their DNA. It's in their instincts. Okay. Why does a lab want to chase a ball? They're a retriever. They've been bred to do that. So, Canadian gray wolves, since the dawn of time, have followed caribou migrations. They've had this enormous refrigerator of food to pick from. They've covered hundreds of miles on these caribou migrations. What do the wolves in Idaho do with the elk that migrate 5 miles, 10 miles? They didn't travel those distances. They didn't overconsume. They didn't have a whole bunch of sport killing. It was a complete different strain of a wolf.
Behavior, the behavior is totally different.
Is completely different. Yeah. So you bring an animal since the dawn of time that has those instincts to hunt like that. You bring it here. The game has no chance.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree. The
Nobody's
behavior
talking
styles.
about that.
That's actually the first time that's been brought up. that I'm aware of. And I listen to a lot of content between videos and podcasts and everything else. And so, that's an interesting take, because you hit it on the nub. The behavioral difference between the type of wolf that was here versus the one they reintroduced here are different.
Completely different.
Yeah, different animals. So what about, let's do another scenario here. You walk into a bar, and like a real man, you order a Coors Light.
Like a real man.
Yes. Next to you at the bar is this guy that it turns out he's like this big anti-hunter. In fact, his goal is to completely eliminate hunting and make it illegal. What do you say to that guy?
Well, being a man.
He's not drinking.
You want to
Coors
punch
Light.
him right in the nose.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but that's not going to solve anything. All that's going to do is get you in jail.
Yeah.
You could have a conversation with him, but that it's not going to. If I've seen anything, unless somebody's a very unique individual on that side and willing to just listen, to actually have a good debate on both sides, and like, oh well, I guess you do have a point there. We both can talk about that and be open-minded, I think. But if they're a closed-minded person, I'm not even going to have the conversation with them.
I think that almost goes without saying that most people that are advocates for anti-hunting organizations, groups, or the whole movement, they kind of are closed-minded.
They're very closed-minded.
Would you say one thing that I talk about is they come to these conclusions and they run these organizations through pure emotion versus actual data. And it's like that on a lot of things. That without getting into politics, it's like that with a lot of things.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I would just punch him.
It's funny because some people, though, you can reach. My daughter, she dated a boy back in high school, and the dad was not a non-hunter. He liked to fish, but he was pretty left-leaning kind of guy. And went over to his house one night for dinner and visited. And he said, he's like, "What do you think about them wolves?" And I was like, "Oh boy."
That's a can of worms, man.
I don't know if I want to talk about this here. So I kind of delicately, eased into it. I didn't say them damn wolves, but I kind of eased my way into it and talked about, the treasure we once had here that's been stolen away by wolves, meaning the elk and deer population and moose.
Oh yeah.
But he's like, yeah. He's like, I didn't really think much of it. I thought, that all that whole wolf debate and how hard they were on the elk, I thought that was not really true. He's like, but I'm a fly fisherman, and I went up this little fly stream up here in North Idaho, and I hiked up in there, and I quit counting elk carcasses at 100.
No kidding.
He's like, yeah. He's like, wolves are no good. They're not good for anything. I'm like, well, I'm with you, brother.
Yeah.
And I think, and I don't know if the closed-minded people on the opposite side of the fence, if they could open up just a little bit and take a look. We're not saying we want to eradicate wolves. Every creature has its place in nature. But by golly, we have to be able to control them by a pretty good means. And they have to give us and trust us to do it in a good way to where we don't get rid of them all, but at least the other animals can thrive too. Why should only one species thrive? Yeah,
and that literally all the years that since they've been reintroduced, that's like where we're at. It is at a point where it's either wolves or a balanced ecological system.
Yeah.
And that's it's just an opinion of a simple man like myself.
Simple man.
Yeah, that literally is kind of what it's come down to. And I think it's even at a point where it's going to take more than just saying we as hunters need to do some management and go out and hunt, because these damn things are hard to get.
You could hand over free elk tags and $1,000 bounty or not free elk tag, free wolf tags and $1,000 bounty per wolf to bring them back in, but you have to shoot it in a hunting way, and they wouldn't spend a lot of money on paying out on bounties. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
These wolf advocates, they say, oh, it's going to be a slaughter. It's going to be. Have you ever tried to take I'll challenge you. I'll challenge any of them. I will give them $500. You can write it down. You can send them my address, my email. I will give them $500 if they want to go out in 10 days and take a picture of a wolf.
You know what?
In North Idaho. Just take a snapshot picture of
I'll
it.
match that. So they can make $1,000.
Yeah.
If they can go out and even just get a picture or get a wolf.
Just yeah.
Because they're not going to shoot it.
Well, no. But I'd like to see them take a picture of one.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
No.
No.
It won't.
No.
It's they might hear them.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying enough for that.
Yeah. The only real good way to manage them is trapping.
Yeah.
Or maybe some aerial gunning. That seems to work. They do it up here, and I'm not sure it's so thick country, but they say it works.
I mean, I would imagine they're coming out with another Top Gun.
Yeah.
I just had an idea. Maverick can come out and free wolf tags with, what is that? He flies like an F-16 or something?
They probably call it something else now. There's probably even better, right?
And they can make that into Top Gun 3, and it could be Hell with the Wolves or, some other tagline. I think it'd make money. Yeah.
Write that down.
You guys write that down. I'll have my assistant write that down. Yeah. Now, this has been a great conversation. What else you want? You want to let anybody know about either Phelps or the videos coming up?
Yeah, just stay tuned on the old YouTube videos, because we got some pretty cool stuff going on there. And so they come out every other day, and on the odd days, I have it's kind of like the tweener day, so I call it.
Are you saying, what are you saying, tweener?
Tweener.
No, so we're not, can this like tweeter?
Well, not tweet. That's a completely different thing.
Okay. So we're not tweeting.
We're not tweeting.
Tweener day.
No, it's a tweener day. Tweener talk.
Yeah, between.
And I discuss what happened the day before on the video and try to answer any of the standout questions in the comments below. So yesterday we kind of, on my tweener talk, I talked about cats. And and my son using a pink Phelps call. So I think we'll probably have some pretty good talking points on my next tweener talk, because tomorrow, or actually tonight, is going to be an awesome hunt on there. So
awesome! I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and just if you guys are doing social media, don't follow me, give me a follow at the Bugler on Facebook and on Instagram and on good old YouTube. Because I put some cool stuff on there. I share a lot of my thoughts and a lot of the hunting pictures. And if you like cool pictures of sunsets and long walks on the beach, you might want to tune in.
Yeah, I like that. Awesome.
No,
So
I don't have any beach pictures.
I know. I watched all your videos. I had to gear up for this, man. Yeah. I watched everything.
Yeah.
And the She-Can 5000. That was a great.
Yeah.
Is that right? The
She-Can
5000.
Yeah, the She-Can 5000.
So you guys need to check that out. And in your defense of that attack on you regarding your cat,
yeah,
if he doesn't live in North Idaho, man, when you live in the woods out here, you got to have cats.
Yeah,
we got some crazy freaking mice coming through here, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
it's just a security cat, really.
So I got your back. on this. So. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I appreciate it. This has been fun. I think we covered some good ground today.
Yeah. Thanks for driving all the way down here. It's a snowy day today.
Yeah.
You risked your life.
I literally risked my life a little bit, but that's what I do for mankind.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a good man for it.
I appreciate it. And like he said, guys, check him out at the Bugler on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook page. And make sure you guys are tuned in on the YouTube channel. I think this might actually come out after all your videos are released. I'm not sure though. So we'll see. Yeah. Maybe we can do this again, man.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Maybe I'll be able to come to your in-home studio.
Yeah. Fill up.
Do you call it anything like the Grotto or anything cool?
No, I don't have any cool names. I just call it the Western Huntsman Studio.
Okay.
You
might want to work on that before I get there.
You know what? I will
make a sign.
If you fill out an application and get approved to come into my studio, I will have a special name for it by the time that happens.
I'll do that.
All right. Good deal. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
see you guys later.